Chapter 4.1, Classifying Triangles. In this chapter, we're going to classify triangles both by its angles and by its sides. To start with, let's look at classifying it by angles. We can classify it as an acute triangle if all three angles are acute, or equiangular triangle that has three equal triangles. And yes, it's an acute triangle, but it has a special name, which is equiangular. Since a triangle angles all add up to be 180 degrees, that makes each of these angles 60 degrees. We could also classify as an obtuse triangle, where it has one obtuse angle. It cannot have more than one, because that would already add up to be more than 180. Or we can classify it as a right triangle, where it has one right angle, and the other two angles have to add up to be 90 degrees, so they both have to be acute. Looking at problem A, it's asking us to classify the triangle by its angles. Is it acute, equiangular, obtuse, or right? Since all the angles are the same, it is equiangular. In problem B, we're asked to classify the triangle. Since it has one obtuse angle, then it is an obtuse triangle. The next one asks us to classify triangle XYZ. So this triangle here, XYZ. Looking at this, we know by angle addition, we can add these two together to equal 90 degrees. So it is a right triangle. The next problem asks us to classify the triangle as acute, equiangular, obtuse, or right. All the angles in this triangle are acute, so it is an acute triangle. We can also classify triangles by sides. Equilateral has three equal sides. An equilateral triangle is also an equiangular triangle. Isosceles triangle, in this class we're going to cross out at least in this class an isosceles triangle has only two congruent sides. If it has three, it's equilateral. Scalene triangle has no congruent sides. Looking at the next problem, it says if point Y is the midpoint of Vx, so we know that this Vy is congruent to Yx, and Wy is 3 units, so this is 3. We're to classify the triangle VWY as equilateral, isosceles, or scalene. So we know that VW is 4.5 units, WY is 3 units, and VY is 1/2 of XY, so it's 8.4 divided by 2, which is 4.2. So VW does not equal WY, and that does not equal VY. So it's scalene. If point C is the midpoint of BD, which would lead us to know that BC is congruent to CD, classify triangle ABC as equilateral, isosceles, or scalene. Well, in our diagram, we know that AB, the measure of AB, equals the measure of AC. We're given that right here. That both equals 1.2. So we know so far that it's at least isosceles. Now BC is 1/2 of 3.4, which is 1.7. So it is not equilateral, it is isosceles. Next, we're asked to find the measures of the sides of the isosceles triangle KLM with base KL. Since the base is KL, we know that KM is congruent to LM. So we would set those two equal to each other to solve for D. So 4D minus 13 equals 12 minus d. 5d minus 13 equals 12. 5d equals 25. And d equals 5. Now we need to find the length of each of the sides. We know that km equals ml. So that'd be 12 minus 5, which is 7. So we have two of the measures. We need the third. So KL equals 5 plus 6, which gives us 11. In the last problem, we want to find x and the measure of each side of an equilateral triangle. Since it's an equilateral triangle, we know that all three sides equal each other. Their measures equal each other. So we can pick any one of the sides to equal another one. So let's pick the two easiest ones. Let's pick BC and AC. So 7 plus x equals 13 minus x. So 7 plus 2x equals 13. 2x equals 6, and x equals 3. X equals 3. Now we need to plug it back in to find the sides. The sides are all equal, so I can plug it into 13 minus x. So 13 minus 3, which will give us 10. So the answer is C. And that concludes the lesson for 4-1.